Well, millions of Americans are struggling to pay rent amid the pandemic. It's why the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention extended the eviction moratorium an additional 3 months.
So short term, the extension is good news for renters. But if you ask landlords, this could mean serious long-term impacts for everyone involved. Our Ryan Jenkins goes 360, gathering multiple in-depth perspectives on this conversation.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has extended the eviction moratorium through June 30th, helping to buy millions of Americans who are behind on rent some time to try to figure out next steps. But is there an impact, and what are any potential consequences? To answer those questions, we are going 360, having in-depth conversations with multiple people with different perspectives on this topic. We check in on a local homeless shelter and ask what the impact might have been if the moratorium was never put in place or extended, and a real estate attorney who shares what could happen once the moratorium is eventually lifted. And we hear from a landlord and a tenant on both sides of the issue.
You're not working full time, you're not making your money that you had made, and it gets tough to pay your rent.
Kevin Turple was furloughed from his sports medicine job. Since then, he is connected to rental assistance programs in Milwaukee County, and he says without the eviction moratorium in place, he may have lost his home. Even with the extended moratorium, he worries about what's still to come.
In this environment, are you going to find a new place, especially when you've exhausted over half of your unemployment benefits and you're going to move in and you're already relying on the RAP program?
But on the other side of the issue, landlords like Sam Stair with S2 Real Estate say they're losing their income.
I'm kind of worried that we don't know what the long-term effects are in attacking low-income landlords, because we're the landlords that provide rent to people that have bad credits, have trouble renting, might have had a previous eviction.
Stair rents to low-income tenants. Today, he says he's owed somewhere around $60,000 in backed rent, money that could pay an employee's entire salary. It's money he says his business needs to survive.
We didn't get a discount on our taxes. We didn't get a discount on our utilities. We didn't get a discount on our cost to maintain the building. Actually, the cost to maintain the building is going up.
Stair worries that tenants won't connect to the resources available or will choose to abuse the moratorium, then disappear, leaving him to pick up the cost.
There are many landlords that went without rent for quite some months.
In the long run, real estate attorney Heiner Giese with the Apartment Association of Southeastern Wisconsin worries the extended eviction ban could be bad news for both renters and landlords. He says because many landlords only take home about 7% of what tenants pay, and because so many landlords are not receiving funds right now, some could end up leaving the business, shrinking the rental market, and others could be forced to increase the price of rent.
A lot of the rent goes for real estate taxes, for water bills are high, maintenance costs are high. You've got your mortgage, of course.
He says it's good news that the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee County, and the state of Wisconsin are all receiving federal funds, which should eventually make their way to landlords as long as the tenants take the right steps in applying for assistance.
There's been a lot of unfairness, we think, in enforcing the social cost of the pandemic on landlords.
To put this conversation in perspective, we should focus on the intention of the eviction ban. The CDC calls the eviction moratorium a protective public health measure and says, quote, keeping people in their homes and out of crowded or congregate settings like homeless shelters by preventing evictions is a key step to helping to stop the spread of COVID-19.
It's a catch-22.
Pastor James West leads Repairers of the Breach, a daytime homeless shelter in Milwaukee, which is why even though he's also a low-income housing landlord, he looks at this situation through a lens of compassion for the tenants.
You have to realize it's easier to keep someone from becoming homeless than to get them out of homelessness once they began. And the trauma and the things that you experience along the way.
Since the start of the pandemic, capacity at Repairers of the Breach has been cut, and new protocols make it challenging to serve everyone who needs help. Without an eviction ban, he says the shelter could become too crowded.
It might come to a place where you just couldn't come in. We only can have so many people in order to keep the ones that's there safe.
Pastor West says what this moratorium buys is time to get housing insecure individuals who are behind on rent connected to the resources available to them.
Everyone does not have access to internet. Everyone does not know how to navigate the internet and things that's on there to find these programs. And so it could take a month before they even realize realize it's out there.
Everyone on all sides of this conversation now agrees that the key is to get the federal funds now available into the hands of tenants who need to pay their landlords. Reporting in Milwaukee, Ryan Jenkins, TMJ4 News.
Ryan, thank you. Further in depth this morning, the American Rescue Plan signed by President Biden contained more than $45 billion in funding for those who are struggling to pay for housing right now, including more than $21.5 billion for emergency rental assistance. $387 million awarded to Wisconsin, including cities like Milwaukee and Madison. Governor Tony Evers said recently that $322 million of those dollars would be available through the Wisconsin Emergency Rental Assistance Program.